Good morning, everyone. Well, last night a terrible tragedy happened in Ukraine. Actually, there's nothing out of the ordinary here because terrible tragedies are happening every night, every morning, every day, and every evening now. But what happened here was so terrible that you don't even know how to describe it. A large family died under the rubble of the house. There were 10 people, and unfortunately many of them were children. I already showed the video of what happened. A missile hit Zelensky's hometown, Kryvyi Rih, where the air defense hardly works. And here people are clearing the rubble. The scariest thing is that this part is pixelated and blurred so that it can't be seen. But you can see the condition of the building, and people say that they keep finding more and more dead bodies. You can watch the full video on my channel right here. Follow the link, just point your phone or tablet camera at this QR code and go straight to the Telegram channel. Or there's a link in the video description and there's a lot more there. And here they're telling us about what happened. The same Zelensky who is now in the US on a much-needed visit. He is attending the funeral of Graham, a senator and the greatest figure of all time, as I also mentioned in the previous video. Well, now he's telling what happened. Before that, he was warning Ukrainians. He said, be careful over there because, well, you know, naturally the man left and a strike came in right away. This has already become, let's say, a cruel tradition. So, a ballistic missile hit a residential building in Radushne near Kryvyi Rih. An entire family died, children and parents. Suddenly, a North Korean-made missile appears out of nowhere. A missile! He tells us, honestly, I don't know how true this is, but before they used to say it was a drone. Now it's some kind of missile, and not just any missile, but a North Korean one. And Zelensky even goes further in describing what happened. Of course, he expresses his condolences. We're told that work continued all day, not only in Kryvyi Rih, but also in Lviv. Here they were clearing the rubble and searching for people underneath. And then, again, something terrible happens. Well, I would say it's terrible from both a moral standpoint and from the standpoint of common sense. The thing is, you remember, right, that in Ukraine they observe a minute of silence every day at 9 o'clock. And after that, whether you're old or young, even in a car, everything on the road stops. You have to stand and mourn. Suddenly, while clearing the rubble already in Lviv, at a time when there are people under the debris who need help, they come and announce that very minute of silence. And everyone stands and waits. All the rescuers, the people helping, the medics, everyone stands and waits. Well, I can understand a lot. But honestly, I don't understand things like this. You have people there who are literally dying. And inaction can actually lead to a tragic outcome. But no, instead they show us things like this and apparently tell us that this is how it should be. Well, here Zelensky is telling us that the alliance of Moscow scoundrels with the crazy regime in North Korea is for the sake of missiles, for the sake of a North Korean contingent here in Europe on our borders, for the sake of killing our Ukrainian children. Well, in general, it's just Zelensky's usual empty rhetoric. Obviously, everyone there expressed all of this. Condolences. Well, of course, here it's all about give us money. In my previous video, I also said that Zelensky would say, give us money. Well, that's exactly how it is. Here it's give us aid. We need to stop this war. We're this, we're that. We need Patriot and NASAMS and Iris and Hawk and basically everything else. Zelensky writes, or rather says, that this war could have been ended a long time ago, but Putin doesn't want that. He's looking for weapons in North Korea, coming up with something in Iran, doing everything just to keep killing more and more. But of course, it's easy to make such statements when you're suddenly in the US. Instead of finally negotiating, even if it's for a bad, terrible peace, instead of this wonderful, marvelous war that seems to excite the souls of so many leaders of various countries. So then there were meetings with the leadership. Naturally, now let's bomb Russia even more. Well, the conclusions here are pretty obvious. That is, this tactic and strategy that we've talked about many times is coming true, being implemented, that for all these powerful leaders, the main thing is escalation, ramping things up. And one of them has already said that if a nuclear strike hits Ukraine, the central command of Refugee, well, suddenly, of course, not for everyone, but for this little gang, just a few hundred people, I would say. Well, as for everyone else, they don't care about anything or anyone. And let's, yes, strike more so that, as he says, the Russian war goes back to where it came from. Well, naturally, there will be more responses, more strikes on Russia, more strikes on Ukraine, more speeches from Zelensky with shouts of, oh, now we're going to. Powerful, unbreakable, and there's resilience plan and stability plan and a bunch of other plans, just like that. Yes. Well, and what next? Next is that there was also a strike on Zaporizhzhia overnight, and it's not any less, well, you can't say it's less terrible, but in general it's nothing good either. On July 30th, Russian troops struck Zaporizhzhia. As a result of the attack, both residential buildings and non-residential premises were damaged. They won't specify what non-residential premises those are and refuse to disclose further details. Due to the strike, a fire started at the scene. There is no information on casualties yet, but here are the images. Zaporizhzhia was attacked twice. A private house and public transport came under fire. That was on July 27, and before that on July 25th, 21st, and 19th. Well, apparently Zelensky's strategy is to keep increasing strikes deeper into Russia so that there will be more attacks. More often against Ukraine, because right now it simply can't be any other way. And in Lviv as well, the clearing of the rubble continues. I just showed it. The rescuers, we're told, are continuing to deal with the aftermath of the attack, saving people, but whether you want to or not, you have to stop in the morning and wait until you're allowed to continue. At least they didn't force us to our knees, and for that, thank God. The issue here isn't only the missiles, but the front itself. Suddenly, what had been talked about before began, the attempts at an offensive, and I touched on this topic a bit yesterday. Today, there is already more concrete information with maps and all the things necessary for discussion. Here we have the Donbas urban area shown, and we are also being told about the consequences of what is happening at the front. The first extremely important sector, the key hub, is the agglomeration of Kostiantynivka and Kramatorsk. The Ukrainian armed forces continue trying to hold on, but then they describe Konstantinovka to us as a doomed city. This is the southernmost point, the Kramatorsk agglomeration, on which a lot depends. Here we see the map and everything is shown clearly here. And they write that assault troops from Russia have already been present in all areas of the city for several weeks, have reached the northern exit, are clearing the central districts of Ukrainian forces, and have sent in assault troops. Except for Syrskyi's personal guard, that very skelly, where people were abused, where people were beaten, and some of them were subjected to various forms of physical violence. Apparently, extremely enthusiastic representatives of this skelly ended up here, but as far as we can tell, there are already few of them left. In general, what can be done there? And on top of that, these very guards are trying to prevent the complete loss of the Konstantinovka agglomeration for as long as possible, which is already being called doomed. If it's doomed, why hold on? Well, again, here it shows where the current battles are taking place. There are many of them here, hotspots. It looks to them like there are thrusts from the left, the right, and the center. All of this could turn into a very big pocket. In the east, near Konstantinovka, according to the Ukrainian armed forces, it's the hardest. The thing is, back in July, just 2 weeks ago, the Russian armed forces captured the ruins of the sealant factories, and that's exactly where the Ukrainian forces were being supplied. Now, that supply can already be compared to a tiny trickling stream. The Ukrainian armed forces can still transfer assault troops to the western part of Konstantinovka, but not in large numbers. And on top of that, Russian troops are gradually advancing to the north of Konstantinovka. Here it's also shown on a larger scale where and what is happening. They keep telling us it's pointless to hold it. Russian troops are gradually advancing toward Druzhkovka from the eastern flank and over the past week from the western flank as well, moving into the rear of the Ukrainian armed forces. Again, all of this could turn out very badly. Now, the Russian armed forces have moved from holding their positions to advancing. They captured Syrotorske or Torske, I'm not sure which is correct, forgive me, 8 kilometers from Druzhkovka. Additionally, things aren't going well northeast of Konstantinovka, where the Ukrainian armed forces' main defense line is being bypassed. And the Ukrainian forces that held positions on the outskirts of Chasov Yar for 2 years are now forced to begin withdrawing. And this means, well, what you probably think it means, that there will most likely be a large-scale retreat soon. Russian troops captured formerly impregnable positions on the city's western outskirts. But we're told that this doesn't mean that the Russian army will soon be able to break through to Kramatorsk, Sloviansk, and capture the remaining part of Donbas, which, by the way, is about 20%. And with each day it's less and less. This was the subject of the agreement between Trump and Putin. Supposedly not unofficial, but still. And the transfer of the remaining 20% of Donbas from Ukraine to Moscow. After that, a ceasefire would begin and possibly peace. All of this fell apart. This so-called spirit of anchorage turned out to be a stench, not a spirit. And now something similar is happening. We are being told that in the coming months, most likely the Russian armed forces obviously won't be able to reach Sloviansk and Kramatorsk from the west, but there are different ways to do it. Here it's also shown on the map what's where and what's going on. And the assault on Lyman on the northern bank of the Siversky Donets opposite Sloviansk has failed. Ukrainian armed forces continue successful counterattacks. But Russian troops managed to cross the river near this settlement. For now it's a small force, but there is a foothold. A foothold is always dangerous because it can grow and turn into a solid base for a full-scale attack. On the western flank, the Russian armed forces are still trying to capture Dobropilya. The Russian Ministry of Defense claims to have entered the city limits, but there's no confirmation yet. The situation remains ambiguous. It's hard to say right now exactly what's happening where, because the forces are scattered. Assault troops are infiltrating in small groups. But it seems that Ukrainian forces have had some successes in the eastern part of the Zaporizhzhia region. The thing is, in 2025, the Vostok group in the Russian armed forces achieved the greatest success. They managed to capture vast territories. In the winter, the city of Huliaipol was captured. After that, the offensive began toward the next Ukrainian stronghold, the city of Orikhiv. At that time, against the Ukrainian troops in the north, the command of the group left a relatively weak covering force along the Vovcha River, but Syrskyi redeployed his forces from near Pokrovsk, and the counteroffensive began. In the spring, the Airborne Assault Corps, numbering up to 20,000 men, began the counteroffensive, and that caused problems for the armed forces of the Russian Federation. The Russian command was able to halt this counterattack. They also redeployed forces from near Pokrovsk. In short, they stopped the Ukrainian troops. And they failed to cut off the most important supply line, the supply line of the Russian troops. Then at the beginning of summer, the same Vostok group resumed the offensive toward Orikhiv, but Syrskyi stopped it all again. And now things are relatively even. In the last week, though, the AFU managed to advance to the south, 10 kilometers deep into the Russian armed forces' defenses. They managed to take the villages of Podubnoye and Novokhatskoye. But it turns out this is either a temporary success or a partial success, because they haven't been able to drive the Russian armed forces out of Iskra and Mirny, and this makes it extremely difficult to move forward. And here they also make an interesting point here, that the objective of this Ukrainian offensive is not entirely clear. In other words, there doesn't seem to be any important goal there. But let's just attack, and let's capture or seize the initiative, or whatever it is we're supposed to do with this initiative. It's complicated. They say it's likely an attempt to stretch Russian forces defending the Vostok group's northern flank. But at the same time, Ukrainian forces are also being spread thin. And they're getting ground down by all of this too. But nobody tells us about that. Apparently that's how it's supposed to be. We're not strategists after all, we're just ordinary people. And here there's some higher truth. And on the section from Huliaipol to Orikhiv, there are still ongoing clashes. The Ukrainian armed forces pushed the Russian armed forces out from the eastern edge of Mala Tokmachka. It's already become a byword. And they were also dug out from Vozdvizhivka, Kopani. Again, sorry if I'm pronouncing the city names incorrectly. Many of them are pronounced differently than you would expect. Before this, only Russian reconnaissance had reached this village, which is located just 8 kilometers away, but now the Russian armed forces have become more active in the Tarnovat area. They are trying to break through to Pokrovska village, as shown here. The situation is very difficult for the Ukrainian armed forces. They need to keep up the offensive at the junction of the Dnipropetrovsk, Zaporizhzhia and Donetsk regions. Or they need to transfer forces from there to help defend Kramatorsk, because these forces are once again in crisis. This crisis is permanent. Everything is complicated there. They can't seem to either consolidate their success or retreat. In general, everything is complicated. That's the situation at the front. There's quite a bit of detailed information there. But again, you need to pay attention to how up-to-date this information is. Constantly, deep state maps are published from the Ukrainian side. They're also published from the Russian side. All the data is different. Write in the comments what you think. Well, in my opinion, things have started to move there in general. It's not clear yet in which direction. But overall, all of this is happening more actively than before. And finally, for today, this is probably about European Union countries agreeing to support Ukraine and Ukrainians, in particular support for refugees. temporary protection. But at the same time, it has already been officially approved that after March 2027, those who are subject to military service cannot enter Europe and receive this very temporary protection. Is this fair or not? I'm sure it's not. But naturally, no one in Europe wants to fight. At the same time, some of the European countries and European leaders are convinced that right now the Russian Federation will attack directly and will march forward vigorously, straight ahead, all the way to one of the oceans. For this, the forces are being modernized, employees of automobile factories are being retrained, and the factories themselves are being restructured and into military factories. But nobody wants to fight. That's why they try to make as many Ukrainians fight as possible. And if there aren't enough Ukrainians, well, they need to be deported. And also, not let them into Europe. Just a great convention. It's about the protection of human rights. Apparently, it's perfect. So, which countries have the most Ukrainians? That's the Czech Republic. That's Poland. These countries have the most Ukrainians per 1,000 people. Estonia, Cyprus, and then the numbers go down. Germany has the most Ukrainians in absolute terms. But in relative terms, it's less than in the Czech Republic. That's how it is. Europe, or rather Zelensky, is now negotiating with Europe about deporting those who are liable for military service. Honestly, I don't think anything will come of it, but in light of recent events, when you watch, it feels like you're watching. It's like looking through the window of the 6th Ward, and you're watching people who behave strangely, because you're not used to this and not adapted to it. Or maybe it's from the window of the 6th Ward, which serves as normality for you, for me in particular, because now, reading some news, this has gradually transformed. Yeah, probably since around 2021 you read the news. Before, you'd read the news and see something like someone flashed a boob. Somewhere they released a new cartoon, then more serious news started coming in. Of course, those were always there, but you read them and you understand the essence of that news, and then some other kinds started appearing, like news from the kingdom of crooked mirrors, where one concept is replaced by another, where murder is called good, where war is called good. Occupation, invasion, all these financial corruption processes, it turns out all of this is considered wonderful. And all of it is heavily packaged under the banner of the defense of Europe. Honestly, I'm starting to lose it. I mean, of course I understand what's going on, but they keep pushing all this so hard. And they try to mix all this half-truth with wild lies. And with a little bit more truth, presenting it as the ultimate truth. It's very strange. Write what you think about this too. Well, let's take a look. Maybe a couple. Powerful leaders who have a lot built up and are very eager to speak out. First, I'll show you one bicep. Apparently, this is some famous girl. She has tattoos. These patterns are everywhere she can put them. She herself looks, well, again, like a military person. Her skin is good. She has eyebrows. Everything is fine. No, actually, a military person doesn't look like that. Well, this very girl with the nickname Runa suddenly starts talking about draft dodgers.
You'd think, well, I know, I respect people like that, these civilians, strong guys who come up with things like that.
That's also interesting. They show all these mamas and papas boys, and we listen to how they don't respect draft dodgers. Nobody cares. She might as well have talked about her attitude towards, I don't know, Nelson Mandela or the black soil in central Russia. Nobody cares at all. There's a scene from Family Guy. It's a pretty crude meme, but I won't repeat it.
Medical certificates for themselves and various illnesses, especially those who are fleeing abroad, not me.
This is clearly a bunker where the girl is sitting, or she may have come directly from the front line. The station is called Kramatorsk. Yes, of course, this is probably a bunker in Kramatorsk, naturally, where this girl is holding the line.
We understand. I get the motivations. How are they supposed to live on? I mean, what will he do if you could be useful to some country here?
What she wanted to understand isn't something we even need to think about. Things have been complicated there for a long time, and nothing is clear, especially to her, because the goal was simply to talk about how bad the draft dodgers are. She blurted that out in the first 10 seconds, and what to say next, who knows? But there's also this mommy's boy, some kind of rocket specialist, and there's a red-haired girl on the left who's interviewing a guy with dark circles under his eyes. What happened to him last night, I don't know, and I don't want to know, but let's listen to what he's saying. She fits in the frame. He doesn't quite. Yeah.
They're preparing for an offensive probing and have already launched several attacks this year. I can say
That they are beautiful flowers. That's probably also Frint in a way. There he is in the back. I see. There's even some kind of label in the pot. Apparently this guy is into gardening. But that's good. On one hand, on the other hand, all right. Blitzkrieg.
this, I know from the data that was given to me.
And who gave it to you? Your mom and grandmother. What's going on? It's so sad, I don't know, but I'll be working with flowers, doing my own thing, doing something good, kind, eternal. Well, you see, there's a sign behind me with a little yellow flower. Apparently some kind of flower is supposed to appear. But instead he'll talk about blitzkriegs, about how he's being given some kind of information about what's actually happening in this world.
My colleagues told me about this, including contacts in the Baltics themselves, and some contacts that I don't even want to mention.
Yeah, well, maybe it's even Grandpa's contacts, so of course you shouldn't depersonalize Grandpa and hand out his contacts left and right. Or the pie maker, that's good too. You need that cow for yourself, like in Streets of Broken Lights. This is our cow and we milk it. And they should and will keep milking it.
They are very reliable, and they are preparing for close questions.
High-powered glasses for the little pie. The red-haired actress, it seems to me, put in some headphones with music and is enjoying herself. She looks like that, and the little pie probably thinks that she's smiling just at him and he's happy too. In short, mutual joy and Sviate show.
I received it right away from some sources.
Yeah, come on, enough about your sources already, we get it. You were given some data, probably about where there are the most cafeterias with pies or with meat or with compote or something else. All right, we get it. Stop with the sources and get to the point.
You really mixed up the information. They want to enter the Baltic countries. They just want to take over the governments there, basically, just like that.
This is data. Putin himself called, by the way, sick delivers. Look at the journalist's reaction. Her facial expressions are really on point.
And to declare that we will go, but all NATO military bases must be removed from here.
He said, like me, I'm actually being sarcastic when people talk about NATO and don't even decline it. I often say NATO, NATO, and so on, but that's sarcasm. And he said NATO, so you can judge that this serious guy doesn't really understand what he's talking about. So if he says NATO instead, well, again, our channel is pretty sarcastic. But here, a completely serious expert is telling us about some data he's being given. And then he apparently doesn't understand what's happening or why, and well, he talks about NATO. That's how it is. Write what you think about this. Bye, everyone.
He is going to announce mobilization, to mobilize from between 300,000 and 500,000 people.
Let's hear it. Well, I'm sure that nothing like that will happen because I think that Ukraine's mobilization capacity today is high enough to defend Ukraine on all fronts. Commander-in-Chief Draupadi has many characteristic traits that showed his personal heroism in the past, and today he needs guys and girls just like that to surpass him. Our victory will be obvious.